Nostradamus. I mean, you could predict a war in the Middle East any year, and it would probably be true, don't you think? No, that's pretty incredible, though, David. There's a lot of people that are like, their minds are blown by Nostradamus. Nostradamus. Yeah, it's pronounced Nostradamus. The actual correct pronunciation is Nostradamus. And actually, that's not true. I'm kidding. Welcome, everyone, to the Pro Trade Room Plus, the WASDE report. My name is Lee Goldstein, the trading director for 10-Minute Trades. Please remember, I'm not a financial advisor. It is possible to lose money trading futures. All the trades we discuss are for educational purposes. I do want to welcome all of our friends that are watching us on YouTube. This is our stream of the week. So thank you, everybody, for joining us on YouTube. Hit the like button, hit the bell so you know the next time we'll be streaming. Hit all the buttons. Just let us know you're out there. Send us money. Do whatever you got to do. All right. Welcome, everyone. Let me answer Ed's question. Can you set up two trades and make them work at the same time? The answer is yes. You would use two different charts, and Roz is correct. It should be on two separate instruments. And you could do it on multiple charts. You just don't want to set up two different trades on the same instrument because each trade would try adjusting the same instrument, which makes no logical sense. So in theory, we have two setups on the DMM. You could trade the trap trade on and the breakout, one on corn, one on soy. Keeping in mind that this is a very volatile trade. It can be very risky. It can also be an excellent profit, hence family money trade. And it's been behaving well. But especially with what's going on in the world, Ukraine, I think Ukraine has had a big effect on this report over the past 6 months. With the food agreements being difficult to get agreement between Turkey, Russia, and the West, I think we may be seeing more outsized moves on these reports, possibly because of that. The other interesting thing about the WASDE report is that there is news that doesn't show, the news doesn't show up instantly for us. You know, it is a report. And if you go to the US Department of Agriculture, there is a report that gets generated and you can spend your time reading it. But that won't really help us in trading it because the trade's over by the time you're going to spend your time, you know, to spend your time reading a report. So for us, we don't really have news on a WASDE report. We know from experience almost always that when we get filled, that's when the news comes out. Every now and then there's an unusual reaction or there's not a fill. But in general, movement has picked up on both soybeans and corn. But currently we are preferring soybeans as our first choice. I did a little bit of testing on the trap trade on corn also. It's hard to trade the trap trade on corn. So my recommendation currently on this report is I like the soybean breakout best. I did a little bit of testing on wheat. Langford, are you here? I think Langford's been trading this. You've been trading this with wheat, haven't you? If I remember correctly. And that's an instrument that we have not looked at previously. And, you know, I did some testing. I think Langford's done some testing on wheat also. And it does move. I don't think it had a great move last month as a breakout, but it looks promising. It's something that I think we're going to open our eyes and do a little more testing. We just literally just started testing on wheat. And I did a couple of test trades on it. I'll just show you one real quick. I wasn't overly impressed, but I'm not sure of my setup yet either. I had my bracket might have been a little bit big. It wasn't a great, I'm choking to death when I made this video. It didn't have a great follow through, and my bracket might have been too small. Part of the problem though is the move isn't big enough to support a big bracket yet. So we'll keep our eye on wheat. I'm not sure we're ready to go with it as an official instrument, but it looks interesting. At the present time, the soybean breakout has been very big, very explosive, and that makes it risky as well. I was going to say it makes it whiskey. And soybeans had a pretty quick reversal last month. Let me show you last month's trade. We had a nice profit, a very nice profit. WAS had a great trade. Did I say Woz? Steve Wozniak had a great trade. Roz also had a good trade. Soybeans on the left, very, very, very fast move. I was surprised we got filled, to be honest. I think we had a little bit of luck of there being good volume because that was an ultra, ultra fast move. It really was. Now, my charts were spread pretty far on corn. It's not a monstrous move on corn. It was a good move, but it also, we're really using corn as a trap. I don't like the breakout. I don't like the breakout on corn. Okay. It's been working a little bit better than it has been in the past. Okay. The past 5 months have seen definite improvement in corn. Okay. But still nowhere near the size of the spikes that we're seeing with soybeans. Okay. Now, if you're going to trade one or the other, I'm not against the trap in corn, but you want to be an experienced trap trade trader, okay? You don't want this to be the first trap trade you ever traded because it was a little bit tricky to manage. That's what I found. Let me show you what I mean. So I tested last month with our trap trade settings. And problem number one is we didn't get filled on our regular settings. I actually have settings that are a tiny bit smaller, but given everything that's going on in the world, I don't think it's prudent to shrink trap trades this week. There's just too much potential for volatility. If the worst that happens is you don't get filled, that's never the end of the world if a trade doesn't fill. I think we all understand that, right? If you don't get filled, you're not going to go crying about the fact that you didn't get filled. You know, maybe you'll look at your setup for next month. You'll definitely go back, make sure that you're not too conservative on your setup. Now, I did give the trap trade 30 seconds at least to fill, which I think is probably a lot. Um, as long as we know the news is out. With the smaller bracket, you could see that it was possible to get filled, but I've not seen great profits on the trap. You could see it did not really continue the reversal. There was one out of the last three were what I would call great trap trades on corn. One out of three were great. Two out of three were difficult. They were difficult. So I still feel that soybeans are the preferred trade right now on WASDE. And in August, the trap trade was great. It was a perfect trap trade on corn. Okay. So my feeling is this: if you're going to go trap trade on corn, or you want to test the trap trade on corn, use the exact settings and use, I'll tell you what I would do. I would use 23 and 35. That's how I would do it. 23 and 35. Stop of 20. That's the setup I would use with a prep of 5 seconds. The prep is 5 seconds. Now, what's interesting, so here's the truth about WASDE. And it's one of the reasons why I think it's great to be a trade room member. A bracket of 20 on soybean breakout, is a perfectly safe breakout. In light of the large moves that we've had in corn, okay, it's been a good bracket. But I want to be honest and say that our testing has shown that you can use a smaller bracket. And in fact, a bracket of 7 RAs is acceptable on soybeans. What happens is this. At one point in time, going back in the past year, there was at least one trade that we had where there was a whipsaw and a bracket of 20 kept us safe in a soybean trade. But as of late, the recent soybean trades, the ones that have worked are safe with a 7-tick bracket. But the DMM says 20. I'll probably go with the DMM and update it next month, okay? But understand that you can use a smaller bracket on this report. So today I'm going to say we could use a bracket between 7. You can really use a bracket between 7 and 20, and that's the truth. Last month, I believe, and it's my fault, I did not update the DMM to my boss. I did not update the DMM. Or we just crossed paths and we didn't see each other's communications. No matter what, the spike last month, even though it was one of the smaller spikes out of the last 3, it still would have been a nice profit. And it was a nice profit. And in fact, it hit all my targets, okay? Because my targets were not that big. I was not that greedy. I was not that greedy on WASDE. WASDE, because it does reverse a lot, I don't like to be greedy on the targets, even though it does have potentially a very large move. It can reverse fast also. So I do like to have targets that are bigger than normal, but not ultra greedy. So let me load a template in. I'm going to do 2 things today. I'll show you what I'm going to do. So I'm going to load in our soybean template. WASDE. And 11:59:58 is our breakout activation time. Targets of 12 and 31 with a stop of 30. That's what I'm going to do. Targets of 12 and 31 with a stop of 30. And I'm debating what I want to use as the bracket. There's a part of me that likes using the big bracket because if there's a whippy early move, I'd like to give myself the best possible chance to survive that bracket. Knowing that soy has pretty big moves, usually you're not leaving all your profit in the bracket with this particular setup. So because the DMM had the 20, I'm going to go with the DMM today, but I am saying that our testing has shown that a bracket of 7 should be safe. I like David's choice, to be honest. 10, I like a lot. I do like that a lot. So for now, that's what I'm going to set up. Like I said, I am going to use 20. I think if you're totally confused and you want to just go somewhere that might be a perfect compromise, I think 10 is great. 11:59:58 on the time, activation, targets of 12. Please don't use my exact targets. Use 9 and 40, use 11 and 28, use slightly different targets. The stop is important. I'm using a stop of 30. And let's check our bracket width like we always do. And the one thing I am going to say is I'm also going to set up a corn trade. Whoops, I have to set my, oh, I did have my time set properly. Okay, that's fine. The market's very quiet at this exact second. It's very quiet. If there should be an early move or something unusual that happens before the report, I'm also going to set up the corn trap trade so that I could switch between the two. If for some reason I wanted to cancel my soy trade before the trade takes place, I want the opportunity to be able to do that. So, and just so everyone knows, the instruments are correct that we're trading. I have checked volume. Okay. I've checked all our volumes on the various instruments. We are trading the correct instruments. In order to cancel an event, you can very simply just uncheck the enabled box. That's all you have to do if you ever want to cancel an event. Let's check our time sync. Totally get it, David. There is absolutely nothing wrong with trading one time and protecting your profit. If you had a fantastic first trade, it's up to you if you want to. You could stop for the day. You don't have to keep trading. There's no law that says you have to keep risking your money. We all know that the more you trade, the more risk you're taking on. It's just the way it is. It's how life works. If you've had a great first or second two trades, you don't have to keep trading just because we have 5 trade rooms. It's up to you totally what you want to do, obviously. So I'm going to set up a corn trap. Time of the event is 12. Activation is 5 seconds. And I said I would do tier 1 at 23 ticks, tier 2 at 35 ticks, 1 position each. The stop is at 20 ticks. And it's a 12 time of event. Going to label it, of course. Okay. I'm going to set it live, but I'm not going to trade it unless, not going to trade it unless my soy trade gets canceled prior to the event. And then I could just uncheck my soy, check my corn, okay? And I have changed trades. We had a situation, it's probably more than a year ago, where something did happen before an event. I don't remember exactly what happened. I think it was just a very volatile move before the news was released, and we decided, you know what, this is probably a very quick opportunity here to change from corn to soybeans, probably is what it was. And it turned out it had a move that looked like the news had been released early on corn. I'm pretty sure it was corn. And so I canceled the corn trade, put on the soybean trade. The soybean trade was a winner. And it turned out if I had just left the corn trade alone, it would have been a winner also. But it was a very volatile move that was before the news was released. It was definitely before the news was released. In the old days, and I say, in the old days, I mean going back 3, 4, maybe even 5 years, 6 years sometimes, if we had even the slightest hint that an instrument just didn't look quite right, we would cancel a trade. We were much, much more quick to cancel trades years ago than we are today. And that's partly because we have learned that the cancellation rules have changed. The way that reports respond to the news is not the same as it was 6 and 7 years ago on many reports. The funny thing is, on some reports, they're exactly the same. The news responds exactly the same. But we've learned a lot over all these years about understanding that canceling a trade is much more nuanced than it used to be. We used to just say, oh, there's a little bit of a move coming. It's early, cancel the trade. We don't do that as easily these days. And interestingly, it's probably the WASDE report that gave us one of our first hints that our cancellation rules needed to be looked at very seriously. And what had happened was, over the course of maybe 3 to 5 months, we just had WASDE reports that were really late, in that the news didn't come out for 45 seconds or 30 seconds. It took a very long time for any response at all. And that just made us, and we had a 10-second cancellation rule. And back in the day, we were much stricter. We were much less nuanced than we are today. So, and it's interesting because I'm sure it was the WASDE report. Hold on one second, folks. Okay, folks. I thought I had an emergency. All right, so we've got about 5 minutes. Remember, WASDE is a report. We often don't know when the news has been released until we get filled. Okay, that's the way WASDE works. And, it is always a very interesting situation when you've had a very good day, right? When you start out where your first trade is excellent. Now, for us, if we have one excellent trade and we have 4 more trade rooms like we do today, we actually have I think we have three more trade rooms, two more after this. We had a total, I think, of four today, right? The point being, we will trade the ones that still give us a great opportunity for profit. That's generally how I will make a decision whether to keep trading or not. If there's a great opportunity for profit, then we will trade live, even if we've had already a great profit. That's different than what the average person might do. The average person might say to themselves, well, I've had a fantastic profit today. Um, I'm going to take the rest of the day off. I understand that the more I trade, the more opportunity there is for the market to take my money. I certainly would not trade the API report for fun just because I made money. I would never trade a report because I made money. I would never use the concept, oh, I could just lose 100 or 150 here. It doesn't matter that much to see how this report does. That would not be the psychology I would ever use anymore. Years and years ago, we might have used that psychology where you had a nice winner. Okay, I'll try the 30-year auction because let's see what happens. No, I think you still have to, the best thing to do always is to follow your plan. But I would always allow someone to say, hey, I had a fantastic profit. I'm done for the day. And you could just start over tomorrow with a new day. I don't have any problem with that. None whatsoever. On the other side of the coin, I don't have a problem with continuing to trade the reports that have been performing well. So, but especially if you make money, what I'm really against is taking an extra risky trade because you made money. In other words, you would not take that trade if you didn't have money in your profit part of your account today, right? So why would you want to throw away profits? I would not, that would not be the concept that I think makes any sense. Now, there's a lot of people watching us on YouTube. How about hitting that like button for us? Let us know that you like seeing these real trades live on YouTube. So it looks like corn is pretty mellow at the moment. Soybeans are pretty mellow. Not a lot of pre-WASDE movement. Does that mean anything? Not necessarily. We see all different scenarios before an event. All right, so we've got less than a minute. Now, I do expect a reasonably quick response. That's my gut feeling, is that the news comes out pretty quick. That's what I think. So our brackets will show up 2 seconds before the news. See how it's delayed? This is very delayed. Neither instrument has moved. Very, very weird. I find it impossible to think that the news is out. So, folks, this is very complicated. If you want to cancel, I think it's prudent to cancel. We don't know what's going on. I don't think it's ever happened. I'm canceling my report. I'm going to put my cursor by the news. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe, but it never takes a minute and a half for the news to come out. I know we've waited a minute. Something is up. There's a lot going on in the world, and I'm willing to watch and see what happens. So 2 minutes. This is not like earnings. WASDE is not earnings. This is, I don't think there's been an instance where we haven't had a WASDE report. Did I get the day wrong? Is that possible? Have I made an incredible mistake? Turning off my trade by unchecking it. Price is at 12.57. Now, I would be very embarrassed. Ed, you were canceled by the software because you must have used the cancellation rule. Otherwise, you would not be canceled by the software. Okay. Did I make a mistake, folks? I'm only human. I make mistakes. What's today's date? Hey, folks, I made a mistake. I made a mistake. WASDE's tomorrow. Cancel your trade right now. So I know what I did. I know what I did. I looked at 2024. All right. I looked at 2024, October 11th. WASDE's tomorrow. So to all our friends on YouTube, I made a mistake. It's tomorrow. So look, it happens. I take full responsibility. I take full responsibility. YouTubers, we will do another stream tomorrow for everybody watching. And that's life. That's life. It's what the people say. Riding high in April, shot down in May. I'm very sorry, folks, if I wasted your time today. I made an error. I'll make sure that everybody gets the email. We have WASDE tomorrow. I'm just glad we didn't get pulled into a trade or something goofy didn't happen. And just so everybody knows, let's at least learn something. How do you know when the WASDE report is? Google WASDE report. Okay, it's very simple. Let's learn something from this. And click on United States Department of Agriculture WASDE report. Okay. Scroll to the bottom. And the honest mistake I made is I looked at 2024. Obviously, we're still 2023. All right. We're tomorrow at noon. Tomorrow at noon. All right, everybody. We will be back. We will be back at 12:30 for the bond trade. All right, we will be back at 12:30 for the bond trade. Chantal, you can close our YouTube if you'd like. Thanks everybody on YouTube. We'll be back tomorrow with a live stream. Apologies, please. Totally my mistake. Totally my mistake. And I see exactly what I did wrong. It happens.